5. Pragg arrives at the board and the game is about to begin. The arbiter comes in and starts the clock. We are waiting for Jawokir to enter, but Pragg has the first move. He adjusts all his pieces like he always does, puts them on their squares. Pragg versus Sindarov is something that everyone's looking forward to. They've been playing against each other since years. Guess the first time they played against each other. By the way, Pragg opens his game with 1d4. He has 1 hour 30 minutes on the clock. Sindarov's clock has started to tick and we are all waiting for him to arrive. Here he is, and a handshake. The first time they played against each other was in Alain in 2013 in Under 8 World Championship, where Pragg won the gold with 11 out of 11. And then they played in Under 10 and then next event, and now they played at the Olympiad in 2022 and then they played at the Olympiad in 2024. So they've been actually rising together with each other to become the best players in the country, and that's why this clash is so interesting. We have the Queen's Gambit declined on the board, c4 e6, and Pragg brings his knight out to f3. And Jawokir also brings his knight out to f6. This is interesting. Knight comes out to c3. And Sindarov goes for the fighting semi-Slav variation. You have the sharp line starting with bishop g5. You have the more solid line starting with e3. But Pragg goes for queen d3, which is played. It's not like a completely new idea or a new move. We have many games in this line, and one of the ways in which black plays is to lure the queen out and then push it with b5. But Sindarov goes for knight bd7, and bishop comes out to f4. So the bishop is well positioned here. This is something that there is a game between Aditya Mittal and Ivan Cheparinov in this line. a6 played here by Sindarov. You can see already he has 1 hour 7 minutes, and he is trying to push for b5 in the position. Pragg goes for e4. So Pragg still in his prep. That's the thing about Praggnanandhaa. He goes into the sidelines and preps in detail, trying to think what his opponents will come up with. D takes c4 played, letting white have this strong center but creating this play with b5 later. So queen takes c4, but b5 maybe not so easy, yeah, because there is queen takes c6 here. Or is it? Oh, he plays b5. Wow. The point being that if queen takes c6, there is rook a7 with a very quick bishop b7 attacking the e4 pawn. Wow. So Pragg goes back, queen e2. He doesn't get tempted to snatch the pawn. He says that I have the central pawns. I'm happy with it. My pieces are well developed. What do you have, Jawokir? Well, for Jawokir, it's all about creating counterplay now. b4. He's pushing the knight away from c3. Later, he wants to put his bishop here and push c5, unleashing the attack on the e4 pawn. And Praggnanandhaa, now taking his time, takes 8 minutes and plays his knight to a4. The knight is well placed here because it stops the c5 break. And Jawokir plays his bishop to b7. Now Pragg has to figure what to do with his bishop on f1. Do you want to go g3 here? He goes rook c1. Another strong idea here was to go rook d1 to put the rook opposite the queen. But rook c1 also stops c5. Bishop comes out to e7. And now Sindarov has just developed his bishop. He wants to castle. And Pragg goes knight to d2. So you can see how Pragg is playing this position. He wants to play his knight to b3 to have complete control over the c5 square. Wants to push f3. But Sindarov says, I'm not going to get into the bind. He pushes his pawn to c5. And this is exactly what Pragg wanted to prevent. And so Pragg, look at his expression there. He's like, how the hell are you playing this, Sindarov? Well, it's time to snatch the pawn here. You could take it with the pawn, but taking it with the knight even better. Now the pawn on e4 is well protected, by the way, for white. So isn't this a simple pawn given? Well, the thing is, black will try to round up the c5 pawn and then just claim that he's better, coordinated, can castle, knight, bishop, everything is well placed. But Pragg has this very interesting move, c6. The moment you take here, you lose your a6 pawn. But Pragg comes back. He comes back on e3 to defend this pawn, and now knight to d7 to win this pawn on c5 is very logical. But isn't the e4 pawn hanging? Like, why should I go back to d7? Why can't I simply take the pawn? And that's exactly what Jawokir has asked. And he takes the pawn, and Praggnanandhaa looks to the side. In fact, if you look at Pragg closely, you will realize what he thinks about each move that is happening on the board. He does not like this. He takes on e4, and in fact, the move by Jawokir, knight e4, was a blunder. It's a mistake, bishop e4, and now not to take on a6 when black can castle and have compensation. But queen g4 attacking the bishop, and the pawn finds it. Beautiful move, because if bishop g6, I simply have bishop takes a6 with a winning advantage. So you have to go back here, bishop b7, but now can I snatch the pawn on g7? No, if you take on g7, black is better after bishop f6. But you can play rook d1, move the queen away, and then take this with a great position. But Pragg goes wrong. He takes on b4. It's maybe okay, but he's taken a pawn. He's attacking the bishop on b7, but now after queen c7, the question remains whether Pragg is really doing better than rook d1 and queen g7. The truth is that that other line was stronger, but here you simply feel that your pieces are well positioned. He castles. Pragg now gets the bishop out. Notice how he put his pawn on f3 to blunt the bishop on this long diagonal. But the engine considers this position closer to equality than better for Pragg. Pragg brings his queen to a3 as 18 minutes 39 seconds. Sindarov has 25 minutes. Time is going to play a factor in this game. Bishop c6 played here by Jawokir. And Pragg now simply castles, and he tells Jawokir, I have 6 pawns here, 3. You have 5 pawns, so you will have to prove your compensation. Bishop f6, and for Jawokir, it's like, I have a good bishop here, I'm simply going to play my pawn to a4 to limit your queen, which is slightly offside. And I'll take the open file, I'll get my queen activated. So I have compensation. Who's right here? Pragg or Jawokir? It's a battle of perspectives. And Pragg now gets his rook to b1. I love this move. Because what Pragg is doing is, he's putting his energy behind these 2 pawns, b and c pawn. So queen comes to e5. And if white manages to improve the position of the queen and then play b4, white would be doing incredibly well. And so queen c3 is such a classy move by Pragg. If you take here, I take and I activate my rook. But Jawokir says, well, I'm not going to trade queens. So he goes queen f5. Pragg offers the trade. Trading queens, not a good idea. White would simply be a pawn up. So queen e5, Pragg goes queen c3 again. A smart way to reach the 40th move. They are on move 27. Pragg has 10 minutes, Jawokir 8 minutes. Again repeats, queen e5. One can be sure that Pragg's not going to repeat here. Queen d2 played. And you see how the queen goes from c3 to d3 to d2, and now of course the rook is going to attack it, and you have to be careful because the bishop has to be protected. So the only move is queen c1, and he finds it. Queen c1 played, and we were talking about this, that Pragg needs to put his queen in a better position and then start playing here. By the way, queen h5 played here, trying to attack on the king side, but I believe there is no attack here. This structure is pretty solid. The bishops are well placed. Let's start with the expansion, and there you see Pragg powerfully playing b4. Jawokir going for the en passant. A takes b3, A takes b3. And these two pawns are super strong. Bishop e5 played. Now don't fall for f4 because it looks like you're attacking the queen, but queen g6 threatens a mate. So that's the reason why Pragg goes for the calm h3. The only problem I see with this is the fact that the dark squares have become weak with the bishop. But Pragg is like, I don't care, Jawokir. If you want, you come in. I'll simply, when you give me a check, I'll go to f1. Queen g3 is on the board. Do you go forward with b5? Oh my god, Pragg, the daredevil, he doesn't even worry about it. Jawokir plays bishop d5. 5 more moves to reach move 40 when you get 30 extra minutes. Pragg has 6 minutes 50 seconds. Jawokir 4 minutes 55 seconds. King goes to f1. And that's prophylaxis against check here. f5 played here by Sindarov. It's time to keep pushing. c6. Let's go. But Pragg goes bishop g1. Maybe stopping even queen h2. But there is a small error here. Yes, bishop e4. What a move by Sindarov. If you take, there is mating threats here. But instead, he finds b6. This is a very key moment by Praggnanandhaa. We'll come to it after the game. Bishop f4 attacking the queen. And here, queen comes to b2. Just improving the position of the queen. And Sindarov, bishop e5, going after the queen. Queen comes up. He can take the exchange now because of this fantastic tactic that he's found with bishop e4, and they've reached move 40. So Pragg gets up and Sindarov takes on c2, and he gets up first. Pragg takes it back. Queen takes c2, taken. And look at this position for Pragg. Even though he's an exchange down, he has these two mighty passers. And these pawns are almost equivalent to a queen. So even though you're exchange down, you can see Jawokir looking quite sad about his position. He knows that he does not have his chances here. Praggnanandhaa has stabilized the position. The king is super fine on f1, and pawn to c6. Reminds me of the very famous song, कंधों से मिलते हैं कंधे, कदमों से कदम मिलते हैं, हम चलते हैं जब ऐसे तो दिल दुश्मन के हिलते हैं. Well, that's a very famous song where you see the pawn on c6 and b6 working with each other in tandem. Pragg taking his time. He's down to 16 minutes. So he's used 14 minutes of his time after increment, offering a queen trade. In no way do you want to trade queens here as black. You want to keep some chances. Queen a4, hoping that bishop f4, some rook d2 business can work. But this is all very difficult to justify, because now there is c7 coming. And you can't even move your rook up the d file because b7 and b8 queen is coming in. So in a way, you have to stay on the last rank. And this rook is passive. These pawns are active. A b7 is in the air, not right away because of rook takes c7 perhaps. But you can just improve your position calmly. And Pragg goes queen c5, attacking the bishop. The bishop has to move away. And then, do your thing. Rook c1. b7 is coming. Nothing much for black to do. Pragg has completely outplayed his opponent here. Jawokir looking at any possibilities that he has, and Pragg opens the bottle of water. Well, that's a sign, and Jawokir resigns here. Praggnanandhaa joins Nodirbek Abdusattorov as the joint leader of the tournament with 3 out of 4, and also reaches 2-7 279.9. That's 2780. He's now within the range of Arjun Erigaisi by just 0.4 points to become India number 1. He's already world number 5. What a tournament and what a year Pragg is having. Let's see how he finishes this tournament.